What's up guys, Chris here. We're back with NieR Reincarnation and I wanted to check back in with my account here after the 400 pulls towards that second pity. If you remember my pulls video, I basically got nothing, but I did stick with that account. So we'll see how things ended up through the next 240 pulls. I also wanted to answer a couple of common questions free-to-play people are asking. Can you get to that second pity as free-to-play? Spoiler alert, you can. And who should you use your pity coins on in that exchange? Also, and maybe most importantly, we'll talk about how to break through those plateaus at 60,000 and 70,000 force as free-to-play and get up over that 80,000 number. Where should you be focusing your stamina and energy to do this? Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. First, let's take a look at the characters here, and this is after 400 pulls. I'm fairly happy with how things turned out here, and I do want to talk about the journey real quick towards getting here and then some of the takeaways from that. After that first pulls video I did, I think I was 160 pulls in, and I only had 9S, 2B, and Lars. I think it was somewhere in between that 160 and 200 pulls that I pulled A2 as well. So at 200 pulls, I had all three banner units at level 70, no duplicates, and Lars. You have a 75% chance of each 4-star unit being a banner unit, so at 200 pulls, I was exactly the average account, 4 units, 3 of them being banner units. Well, over the next 200 pulls, I got a duplicate of each of A2, 9S, and 2B again, and I was surprised to actually get Mechanical IKEA. That's just what I call her. Deal with it. Not only because she's awesome looking, but it was off banner. I used my pities on 2P and an A2 duplicate, which we're going to talk about in a second. Ultimately, at 400 pulls, I ended up with 8 units, exactly average for that 2% rate, and 6 banner units, exactly average, and 1 duplicate for each, so exactly average. So yeah, what you're looking at here is like the poster child for the average account after 400 pulls. We'll come back to all this in a second, but I do want to talk about getting to that second pity as free to play. Can you do it? To put it simply, yes. I've done 400 summons. You can see here at the top, I have 13,750 gems, almost 14,000. The second pity should be pretty easily attainable for everyone. In fact, I think a third pity could actually be possible. Not sure. We'll have to check back in a month when this event is ending, both of these events, and see where we're at. Going back to the units here, I did buy that starter pack, that 48-hour pack that gives you a guaranteed 4-star unit, and that's this Rion that I have here, which I didn't include in my character count earlier. In hindsight, I really don't think I needed that. Everyone was saying don't pass up the value of that 48-hour starter pack, and I kind of got peer pressured into it. They don't have a dare program for gacha games, unfortunately. So personally, I would say don't do it. Rion hasn't really done much for me on my account other than being a staff wielder, and maybe I'd feel differently if I'd gotten a unit like Gale or Demos. But anyway, I would say that starter pack, yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of regret buying it, to be honest. The next common question is, who should you use your pities on? A lot of people keep asking this. Everybody has a different account, but there's basically 2 schools of thought when it comes to the pities. One would say if you're a collector, use those pities on the units that you didn't get on your pulls. The other would say if you're more of a min-max type, then you use them on duplicates of units that you already have to push them to level 90. I also want to throw out here that you probably shouldn't use your pities on anything until you've gone to your 400 pulls and you have an idea of what your account looks like at that point. So anyway, I decided to be Lloyd without Harry, dumb but not dumber, and do kind of both of the approaches there. So my first pity was on A2 to get her to level 80 from 75. The general pecking order for picking up duplicates seems to be A2, 2P, Summer IKEA, 2B, Mech IKEA, and then just the rest of the units. Generally, this is because those units at the top are big time damage dealers. They help you clear content a little bit easier right now. And it's not that duplicates for those units at the bottom are bad, but if I have to choose, I'd even take like a 75 of A2 or 2P over the last duplicate on 9S or something like that. So if you're having trouble deciding, I think the basic rule would be anything from the top 6 units there, choose the one closest to max ascension, and then choose them for your pity. For the collector side of me, that's how I ended up with this 2P here, and I just wanted to see what all the rage was about, so I used my pity here. The quote best decision probably would have been another A2 duplicate, but I really love the 2P character design and her weapon, which boosts light attack. And I've got to say, I've been extremely underwhelmed by 2P, and it's not that she doesn't do damage, she does, but for a lot of the more difficult content, she has like no defense or HP. So in boss fights, they throw out like one AoE and she just goes down right away. So this whole glass cannon thing will probably be better in PvP arena. And I also want to point out that she will be significantly better if you do get one ascension, as it'll unlock this ambush ability. Ultimately, I'm fine with my decision to pity her, as I love this character design, but I'll probably be switching her out as the third in my loadout, or IKEA, because she's a little bit more sturdy and I have much better greatswords. But undoubtedly, it probably would have been better for my account to do another pity on A2 rather than picking up 2P. So let's head over to my loadout here, and I want to talk about how to push through those total force plateaus that you're inevitably going to hit, and a nice little palindrome here on my total force. But the big plateaus will come right around 60,000 total force and 70,000 total force, and I want to go through the best ways to push past these plateaus and the kinds of things you should be farming to do that. My best friends Cabbage and Oron J did make amazing videos on this, which I will link in the description below. We're going to try and summarize some of the points they made in their videos, but I'll also tell you how I personally approached those plateaus in total force. By the way, Oron and Cabbage are not my best friends. I made that up. That might have been a Freudian slip. Anyway, the first thing you can do to look to increase your total force is your weapons. So if I flip over the display here, you can see the levels on not only my primary weapons, but also my secondary weapons. Remember that the secondary weapons play a very important role on your characters. They add half of their stats, but also their secondary abilities or passive abilities will apply as well. So when you know a weapon will be mostly used as a secondary weapon, use your materials on leveling the secondary ability first. For example, on my A2 here, I have this Wretched Greatsword, which you can see I have the level maxed out for the stats, but I also have the Vigor ability leveled up to level 9 here, which adds a percentage of attack to my A2. The other thing to keep in mind is equipping the correct types of weapons on your characters. So you can see that I have A2 equipped with 3 great swords, 2B has 3 one-handed swords, etc. You're going to get more stats from weapons that match the type of the character, even in the secondary slots. Early in the game here, keep in mind it still might be better to equip weapons that are not of matching type, as you can see here on my 2P, holding a greatsword and a staff. This might be the case if you don't have enough high-level weapons of a single type, but I think eventually you'll be able to collect enough weapons to outfit multiple characters. The last thing with weapons, and this is the big one, is evolving weapons, and this is so huge because it not only increases the stats on weapons, but it also unlocks their second passive ability. If I go over to my Virtuous Treaty here, evolving this weapon is going to unlock this Vigor ability. And if you were paying attention in class, you recall that passive abilities will apply even on secondary weapons. So if I go back to my loadout here, clicking on this Wind Sword that I have equipped on 2B, you can see that even just having this as a secondary ability, she's getting the benefit of both Fleetfoot and Vigor. This is another reason that the free event 3-star weapons, when evolved to 4 stars, can be a great way to add total force. You can see that I have the 3-star Type 40 blade, evolved it to 4 stars, and put it on my A2 as a secondary for the benefit of the Vigor and Fleetfoot passive abilities. All of this said, when you get to about 60k force, work on your weapons. It seems like the best way to farm up your weapons is by heading over to quests and doing the daily quests. The reason for this is that they drop materials to increase the skills of your weapons, some leveling mats, but most importantly, they drop these gems that can evolve your weapons. Many people point to the gorilla quests as well. These can be great because they drop enhancement materials a lot faster to increase the levels on your weapons, but you don't have that chance for gems or skill materials. So personally, I prefer these daily quests, though the gorilla quests can be great if you need to level up a weapon very, very quickly. So this alone should help you hit that 70 or 75k number on your total force. And once you get there, I think this is actually a pretty good time to look at finding basic sets of memoirs for your units. And you can do that by going into the dungeons in the subquests right here. And I'll just give you a quick overview first. I hate this officer's memories just because the boss inflicts blind and it can be extremely dependent on RNG. This new witch's memories can be difficult at the later stages, so it's more difficult to get better memoirs. That leaves us with my personal favorite, and that's the dynast's memories. This one is far more predictable, and if you can manage to get past this 8th floor right here with some pretty weak water weapons, I love this 9th floor because it's very easy to farm, especially if you have A2 and her fire sword, and it has a pretty decent chance to drop 4-star memories. I would say at this stage, you don't need to look for ideal memoirs, just decent enough sets. In fact, I'll just do a quick run of this right now just to show you my strategy and how we actually clear this. All right, loading up our run here, and I've pretty predictably can beat this. I think it's at, I'm pretty close to like 100%. I can't remember the last time I won here, but 2 basic strategies. I like to target these little guys first. They seem to do a lot of damage. Another thing is, if you look up here, I have auto off, and this is just so I want all my units building up their attacks for chains on the final boss. So again, target a single target. I like to use these bottom abilities on my characters. It'll prime their character abilities faster for that boss wave. Headed into the boss wave. First thing I like to do, I have the Dark Bear equipped. I launch this at him to try and get blind. Got it, which means if he launches his attack, a lot lower chance to hit us, even though it doesn't really matter. Right when we get somewhere here on this 3rd bar on his life is when I like to use all of our abilities and chain them together. So right about here. Now we just launch everything. I do 2A last just to get that last damage. Make sure we throw a companion shot there at the end. And we'll see A2 probably is going to kill him with her abilities. Their critical damage.
My thanks.
Here it comes. Right there. Pretty reliable if you have A2, actually. Her fire damage doing a lot of extra damage. You can see you're probably going to get a 3-star and a 2-star almost every time you do this. You have a pretty good chance of having a 4-star drop as well. So finally, going back to my loadout here, when you do find some decent memoirs, make sure that you take them up to, I like level 9, and these can be very expensive to level up, and they get exponentially more expensive the higher level that it goes. To me, level 9 is like the perfect stopping point for memoirs that you aren't going to use as like your forever memoirs, if you want to call them that. This is because you do get 3 substat increases if you take it to level 9. So these secondary stats, you get an increase at level 3, level 6, and level 9. And then also if you just take it to level 9, it's not like super expensive. You aren't investing too much when you eventually do sell these off. As for what memoirs that you should have on each character, well, this is part preference and part planning. I don't want to go too much into this for this video, but in general, this of Kings and Soldiers that has 15% up attack, this is a good general set for almost every unit. And then also this one that I have here on 2P that has an HP bonus. This is the Young Lord's Studies. These both can be good general sets to have on your characters, and they both can be farmed in that Dynast's dungeon that we just did. Lastly, there's companions here on your loadout, and I still haven't gotten too much into this, but this is how a lot of people are pushing upwards of 90 or 100,000 force. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. I wanted to make this because I know a lot of people are getting discouraged with NieR Reincarnation with the rerolls or the gacha or breaking through these total force plateaus. But as with all gacha games, your luck will eventually even out over the long run, so proper planning is much more important than luck. especially for people who are free-to-play players. My account just so happened to be as average can get after the first 400 pulls. Hopefully this video can give you an idea of tangible ways to increase your force and to keep progressing. Let me know in the comments section below if there's any questions or things you guys would like to add, and thanks for watching.